Welcome to the Daily Boogie.
Group, and he joins us. Enrique, thanks for coming on.
Hey, Tucker.
So I understand that you're for more immigration into the country, but I can't imagine you would support people walking across Mexico and just showing up, expecting to be let in. If that were to happen a lot, we would no longer be a country. So what should we do with these people?
Well, Mexico is not a hostile nation like you mentioned earlier.
Of course
and
it
the
is.
people that are coming from, no, of course it isn't. And the fact that these people that are coming from Central America is the same thing that's been going
He's off to a flying start.
on since Reagan interfered in the Central American policies in the late 70s and 80s. These are people that are escaping violence, escaping hunger. They're looking for refuge, and they're trying to come into the
They wouldn't be escaping from socialist countries now, would they, by any chance? Just a thought.
country. And when you have a border patrol,
Of course not. Of course not. They're escaping from oppressive capitalist free market Christian lands. You know, they're escaping from the white power evil dictatorships like North America. Because, I mean, other cultures around the world don't have any problem. It's just the white guys who invented whiteness to keep white people in power. And, you know, white is a culture and everybody else is a culture. And if you say anything wrong about other cultures around the world, remember, you're a racist. And we mustn't be racist. They're just as good as anybody else, which is why they're fleeing.
like Chris Harris, encouraging them to come, telling them, just show up at the border and say asylum and you're going to get in. That's a lie. That's not the way it works. And it causes these people to flee.
See, Philly, I've often said this, and I've said it for a long time. Best ethnic restaurants in diverse areas. That's all they have. Whenever you talk about multiculturalism and mass immigration, the only thing, literally the only thing that the Liberals keep coming back to over and over and over and over again is fucking restaurants. If your entire political ideology in regards to culture, immigration, diversity, multiculturalism, the dividing up of people for the political class to best harness and subjugate and keep themselves in power, if all of that can only be summed up by saying, yeah, well, we've got some pretty good restaurants, I've got two words for you: cook fucking book. Yes, we can send books across oceans now over the internet. You don't have to actually physically bring the chef here. My God. But don't worry, fear not, because it won't be long until well, they're already doing it now. If you eat Mexican food and you're not a Mexican, guess what? You're culturally appropriating that person. You're culturally appropriating that food. That's also racist now. I bet you didn't know that. So enjoy the restaurants while you can, because in the next few years, you won't be able to eat there. Maybe that's what it'll take. Maybe that's what it'll take for your average, below average, and vice versa, progressive voter to understand that perhaps maybe this path that we're on isn't all it's cracked up to be. When they're banned from eating at the restaurants that they love, maybe there will be a political awakening. It's sad to say that only an entree can bring on a kind of deeper understanding of the political world that we're living in, but maybe that's the way it has to be, damn it. I ordered an egg roll and I didn't get it because I'm white. That's it. I'm voting Republican. Maybe. Who knows?
They're crossing. They think they're going to be able to get in. Most will not be getting in.
But I'm not really sure why I don't know why you would feel an obligation to defend the government of Mexico, which is abetting illegal immigration into our country, which has been literally for years, which has trained people explicitly with documents that we have on how to get into this country illegally. I don't know why you would be flacking for them. I don't know what's in it for you exactly, but let's stop lying about it. Mexico could stop
Well, he's got a little shirt. It's got Border Angels written on it. It's a little company he's running here.
this right now. Mexico is a very long country. It's a long way from
The left now thinks cactus eating is a delicacy, says James.
Honduras to Tijuana. They could stop this, but they're not. This is an act of hostility.
The thing is that we allow the freedom of people to be able to travel freely within the country, as a lot of countries do in the world. And I will
Within
defend
the
Mexico
country,
because
yes.
you're lying. Why don't you show me a document where the Mexican government is training people, like you just said, to cross into the United States? The Mexican government isn't doing that. Are there people doing that? There may be.
Really?
Can
Because
you
they
have
were
these corrupt
giving,
Border Patrol?
you know, I'm sorry, I win with superior knowledge here. The
No, that's not
Mexican,
true.
no.
Superior
Of
arrogance.
Of course it is.
I know you're from San Diego.
No. Facts, you're just arrogant. How dare you bring facts to this kind of discussion, you arrogant prick.
And your racism and
okay.
ignorance.
And
is
your
real.
racism and your racism and ignorance. Arrogant, racist, and ignorant. Quite the trifecta.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And look at the smug look on him. Yep, I just ended this debate. I called him arrogant, ignorant, and racist. And I'm just going to sit back in my chair and bask in my glory as a border angel, because I care.
The Mexican government has given instructions to people, I've seen them with my own eyes, on how to get across the border. But the point is, this group of people.
Let's go to a video. He thinks he's the producer now. Let's go to the video.
Any time by the Mexican government, which again you feel the need to make apologies for, but they detain people all the time in their country from Central America, as you know. But they're not detaining these people because they say they're going.
When will he mention Hitler?
Norte.
Yes, that's a good question. How long till he mentions Hitler?
Okay, so they're a hostile power, but why should we have to accept anybody who comes here?
Most people aren't coming to the United States. Most undocumented people go elsewhere. They have no desire to come here. Of the 250 million undocumented...
Yes. In a world of, what is it, like 6 billion now or thereabouts? Yeah, most people aren't coming to the United States. Thank you. Thanks for that.
people in the world today, the United States has 11 million. And that flow has shifted dramatically, dropped 40% in the last 5.5 years.
But why should we take any? No, but you're missing it. Why should we take any? There are a lot of people who want to come here legally.
Yeah, but there's no way for these people to come in legally. And the United States interfering in these countries, the demand for the drugs, invading a sovereign land like Iraq, or interfering in the civil wars of Central America.
Okay. You need to leave the Mexican border open now because of the Iraq war. Don't forget, you're arrogant, ignorant, and racist.
Causes people to flee. The U.S. should be more welcoming.
So our sins are the reason this is. So you hate America, is what you're saying. I don't know why. Actually, it's interesting. You're blaming America for illegal immigration into America. People come here.
Central America is part of America. Central America is part of America. Mexico is part of America.
The United States is a separate.
Central America is part of America. Beautiful. Beautiful. I guess there's nothing to stop the well, let's build the wall somewhere. Where? I don't know. Where would we build it? Let's build the wall in Argentina then. Let's just send the troops down to secure the American land again. It's part of America. You heard the man. Free holidays. No more passports. Away we go.
Is a separate country. It's not the same as Honduras, actually. One-third of all Salvadoran citizens already live in the United States. So at what point can we say we've atoned for our sins in El Salvador?
Never.
Stop interfering in the policies of other countries. Stop taking their natural resources. Stop invading.
Oh, stop invading. Isn't, how's this for a thought bubble? Isn't hoarding together millions of people and sending them over the border interfering, and so that the host country now has to write policies specific to that group of people, aka DACA? Isn't that interfering in someone else's politics? Just a thought. Just say you want to represent 11 million illegal immigrants that have no documentation in a particular country, and you lobby government to have a specific set of rules and allowances and pathways, and you make it a voting issue. You make it an election issue, and you say everybody who doesn't vote for this is racist and evil and bigoted. And then you dominate the political climate on that particular issue for a matter of weeks, months, years. Isn't that interfering in the politics of another country? No. This is about empathy. This is about the sins of America. This is about the evil sins and invading and foreign policy of American governments. You need to be interfered with because you were interfering. Two wrongs do make a right now. Yep. Your mother used to tell you two wrongs don't make a right. She was lying. She was a racist, bigot, arrogant, ignorant, what have you as well, I assume.
In sovereign lands. You have a president.
Are we taking the natural resources of Honduras right now?
Remember Donald Trump? I mean, that guy, he's an embarrassment to the world. He says they're coming for DACA. DACA ended in 2000. People had to have been here by 2012. Donald Trump doesn't know what he's talking about.
Let me ask you. I'm not asking you your opinions on Trump. I'm not interested. I'm asking you about the policies hold on. The policies that affect all of us as Americans. And you're saying that Hondurans have a right to come here because we take the natural resources of Honduras somehow? Can you be a lot more specific?
No, Iraq.
Absolutely. The invasion of the United States of sovereign lands, whether it was the interference in Central America with the Reagan administration.
What do we do to Hondurans?
Well, have you heard of Iran-Contra? Have you heard of the fact that the United States is the #1 consumer of natural resources from other countries? The #1 consumer
in
of illegal
Honduras?
drugs?
So these people are coming here to punish us for bad things we did in Honduras?
No.
Are you representative of people on the left? Is everybody this dumb?
The United States
I'm
has a
serious. What
large
are you talking about?
responsibility. And when they invade sovereign lands, when they take from sovereign lands, they should be a more welcoming nation, and they are not.
Okay. When America invades sovereign lands, they should be more welcoming, because that's what evil dictatorial invaders do, ladies and gentlemen. If you read your liberal history books at your local Common Core establishment, you will find that all the great empires of the past who invaded sovereign lands, who, suppressed local communities, they were, in reality, they were very welcoming. They were very empathetic. That's the natural thing. That's the way it should be. If you're going to go around the world stamping your foot on all of the little people, you should simultaneously be very welcoming and hand them blankets and food and a bowl of soup, so that hopefully one day, with hope, with education and hope, a lot of tolerance, a lot of understanding, and ixnay on the acism ray, they will hopefully one day open a restaurant in Philadelphia, and Leonard can go down there for a nice, taco. That's the plan. That's the plan moving forward, because we project forward because we're progressives. Always thinking about the future. And think of all the restaurants that we'll have. It won't matter if people are too broke to eat in them, but that's another story altogether. Don't worry about that. Cookies and crayons, says player. Thanks for joining us. Just in case you didn't get the message, yes, from the Chicago Tribune, Trump uses xenophobia yet again to rile up his base. Don't you feel? I bet you feel really intelligent, you Trump voters in America. Trump is he's just throwing xenophobia at you, and you're absorbing it, and you just walk down whichever path the racist puts in front of you. You have no mind of your own. You have no opinions of your own. You have no opinions on, say, things like immigration or national sovereignty or border security. You don't know anything about any of that. All you know is that somebody says something xenophobic, and you're ready to just jump off the cliff clutching your American flag. Hide your valuables, safeguard your women, flee for the hills. The Visigoths are at the gates. We're all doomed. That, roughly, is the message that President Donald Trump conveyed this week with his incessant tweeting. Hysterical, cowardly, inhumane, and deranged in equal parts about the caravan of Central American migrants, they're not migrants, making their way through Mexico toward the United States. Alerted by those crack intelligence analysts at Fox and Friends, Trump began hyperventilating on Easter Sunday, showing no sign of Christian charity or brotherly love. He wrote, quote, "Border Patrol agents are not allowed to properly do their job at the border because of ridiculous liberal laws like catch and release. Getting more dangerous. Caravans coming. Republicans must go to nuclear option to pass tough laws now. No more darker deal. On Monday, he continued, Mexico has the absolute power not to let these large caravans of people enter their country. They must stop them at their northern border, which they can do because their border laws work, not allow them to pass through into our country, which has no effective border laws. Later that day, quote, Honduras, Mexico, and other countries that the US is very generous to sends many of their people to our country through our weak immigration policies. Caravans are heading here. Must pass tough laws and build the wall. Democrats allow open borders, drugs, and crime. The author continues. So what is this terrifying caravan? Don't you just love the sarcasm? What is this terrifying caravan, is in quotation marks, that necessitates, gasp, tweeting in capital letters? It turns out to consist of roughly 1,000 migrants, including 300 children and 400 women. 700 women and children, apparently. They are primarily from Honduras, a tiny country that is afflicted by poverty, corruption, political violence, and one of the world's highest homicide rates, and also the world's toughest gun laws, you'll be pleased to know, in Honduras, ladies and gentlemen, liberals. Very tough gun laws in Honduras. Remember, less guns means more safety. See, I like this too. A tiny country that is afflicted by poverty, corruption, political violence. See, it's not the Hondurans. It's not the Honduran culture. It's not the Honduran people. It's not the Honduran government. It's none of those things. Concepts like poverty, corruption, and political violence have nothing to do with the people in those countries whatsoever. It's like a genie that flies around and just smacks you on the bottom with her little wand. It's an evil genie, the poverty genie. The poverty genie just flies around the world and selects people, because the poverty genie is also racist. The racist poverty genie flies around the world and selects various people for poverty, to be afflicted with poverty and corruption. Yes, like if everything were real and true and there were no white evil Americans invading Iraq, then in Honduras, everybody would live equally and happily. There would be no poverty, no corruption, no political violence. That's all white privilege. White people invented poverty, corruption, political violence, but only for non-white people in other countries, you see. Those white devils, I tell you. They are not seeking protection under the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, which few of them have heard of and none of them are eligible for. Far from allowing the caravan to simply go on its way, Mexico has already deported at least 400 of the participants, but is negotiating to allow others to apply for asylum either in Mexico or the United States. Interesting why the Mexican government is allowing people to apply for asylum in the United States. I would hope that the United States has some kind of role in deciding who gets to apply for asylum in their own country. No, nope. That would be racist. The US Border Patrol has nearly 20,000 agents. Together, they apprehended more than 310,000 people trying to enter the United States last year. It seems safe to say that the Border Patrol will be able to defend American soil from some 1,000 bedraggled refugees now. They've gone from migrants to refugees within the space of 3 paragraphs. That escalated quickly. Even without the help of the armed forces or the erection of a border wall, steps that Trump claims are of urgent necessity. Let's have some pictures of suffering there. And what horrors will be visited upon the United States if it were to act with a smidgen of kindness? Okay. Not wanting, picking favourites. So because these particular 1,000 people tick some kind of box that other people don't tick, it would be kind to let them in. It's okay to stop the 310,000 people last year. They don't get the kindness. They don't get kindness. But these people, for whatever reason, possibly because it's flashed all over the mainstream media constantly, and because a lot of people are making a big deal about it, and we're talking about border security right now, so it's a hot button issue, that's when you need to show kindness, you see. Especially when you write for the Chicago Tribune. This, Max Boot, it's actually from the Washington Post. It was reprinted in the Tribune, but it's originally from the Washington Post. So that's when you need kindness, when the world is paying attention. How many are going to live in Boots House? I'm just curious. The president's message that just 1,000 refugees pose an existential threat to the world's sole superpower. No, that's a straw man, Max. That's a straw man. Not having any control over your border poses an existential threat to the world's sole superpower. Not these particular 1,000 refugees, champ. You see how you've converged those two? Do you see how you've conflated that? Turned it into a straw man? Not having control over a border poses an existential threat to your country? Absolutely. Why do you think borders exist? I was amazed when the governor of Oregon came out on Twitter and said, I don't want to see... you wouldn't believe it if I didn't tell you. I don't want to see our borders become militarized. I'm convinced that these people just spew out words without having any understanding what they mean whatsoever. A border is militarized by definition. That's what a border is. You see, it is a line in the sand, for want of a better term, whereby this is our territory. We will defend. We have a right to defend our territory with guns that the military has. See, generally, this may be a foreign concept for our liberal friends, but generally when wars occur, it involves going over other people's borders, like that gentleman on Tucker Carlson was just explaining. You know, the US has gone into sovereign lands, gone over their border, and that's wrong. But when America wants to defend their border, it's wrong to defend it. You see? So, Kate Brown, yep, that's the one. She's an absolute genius. Otto gets it right. The Soviet border was meant to keep people in, not out. That's exactly right. We couldn't allow them to escape utopia, lest the mirage of equality be shattered before our eyes. You've never visited the Canada-US border. It works. Yes, because the Canadians and the Americans, Philly, I think you'll agree, are quite close culturally. Do you see? Do you see how culture plays a part? Very similar people. I still don't think you could march 1 million people over the Canadian border. I don't think even Justin Trudeau would go for that. Let me just bring something up for you. Oh, look at that. Wouldn't you know it? The Canadian border just works. I wonder why that is, Philly. And then I'll stop wasting time. Trudeau to asylum seekers. Crossing border illegally won't fast-track immigration. Those who cross illegally will be subject to Canada's rigorous screening projects, Prime Minister Trudeau said. You know, the big cuck Trudeau? Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has a message for asylum seekers. Crossing illegally into the country doesn't offer an advantage when it comes to obtaining refugee status in Canada. Quote, if I could speak directly to people seeking asylum, I'd like to remind them there's no advantage. Our rules, our principles, our laws apply to everyone. Trudeau's comments come as the government grapples with a surge in asylum seekers crossing into Quebec. Oh, the border just works, says Philly. It just works. The first 2 weeks of August, more than 3,800 people walked over the border into the province compared to the 2,996 who crossed throughout all of July. Speaking prior to Montreal's Pride Parade, he's very proud, Justin, Trudeau stressed that anyone seeking refugee status will have to go through Canada's rigorous screening process. Oh, not a screening process. We can't have that in America. But I tell you what, dang blast it, that Canadian border, it just works. Does it? Yes, with its screening processes and rigorous testing. It just works, I tell you. It just works. All of the threats in the world, Trump chooses to focus on a few migrants who are, in truth, no threat at all. Again, straw man. What is he ignoring? Let's see. A trade war with China that has rattled markets. Russia's attempted assassinations in Britain. Russian and Iranian war crimes in Syria. The Saudi war in Yemen. The US war in Afghanistan. I thought we wanted America to stop getting involved in other people's politics. Didn't we just figure that out? Didn't the last guy on Tucker Carlson say the reason that you need to keep your borders open, the reason that it's evil for you to stop people flooding into your country is because you keep getting involved in other people's politics? And now it's like, oh, Trump's choosing to focus on the migrants because he's ignoring what's happening in Syria. He's ignoring the Saudi war in Yemen. He's ignoring Afghanistan. He's ignoring the Russian invasion of the Ukraine. The election in Iraq, the insurgency. Oh, we need to send people to Somalia, Nigeria, Mali, Libya, and other countries. They've got insurgencies going. Trump's ignoring all of that and focusing on his own border, just like the migrant representatives want him to do. You know, Donald, you can't not let these people in. Think about all the meddling that you've been doing in other countries. You've been getting involved in the politics of other sovereign nations, and that's why it would be evil and immoral and wrong and bigoted of you to not welcome as many people in as possible. Trump says, okay, that's a bit bad. I guess we better start ignoring places like Somalia, Nigeria, Mali, Libya, and start talking about the migrants then. No. Why are you ignoring the politics of other sovereign countries? Shouldn't you be invading? Shouldn't you be stopping them? I mean, Donald, let's be honest. If America stops getting involved in other people's politics, then we'll lose our only bargaining chip when it comes to letting more people into America. We can't have that. We want Donald to keep invading. We want the American war machine to keep rolling through the Middle East and North Africa so we can let in more Hondurans. Let's check out Morning Joe.
Hey, so Willie. Yesterday was fascinating. This was, we were just celebrating the life and the remarkable legacy of a woman who inspired Brown.
Who did she inspire?
Education, of course. That takes you back to when Eisenhower sent the National Guard to Little Rock.
Yes. Governor Brown was inspiring. Crystal says, if you don't invade, who will? Let's liberate Mexico, says David.
Do extraordinary things. It transformed really our lives, our children's lives, our lives, American culture.
Yes.
Now we have sort of the Breitbart inspired, I guess, and Coulter inspired moving of National Guard troops down to the border.
Okay. It was all Breitbart's idea. This business of moving National Guards down to a porous border in order to prevent, as best as possible, thousands of people of just walking in. That's so Breitbart. That was all Ann Coulter's doing.
Nobody's really sure what they're going to do there. They're not really allowed to make contact down there.
Make contact.
But we have that. And
then... See, now we care about rules. Listen again to Joe Scarborough.
Moving of National Guard troops down to the border. Nobody's really sure what they're going to do there. They're not really allowed to make contact down there.
Okay. They're not allowed to make contact down there. Well, I'm pretty sure the people walking across the border aren't allowed to do that either. But hey, we apply rules very selectively here on MSNBC. There's people walking across the border. They're not allowed to do that. Oh well. The National Guard's going down there to stop them. They're not allowed to do that. This is a nation of laws. This is a nation of laws, ladies and gentlemen. The people in the nation have to abide by the laws. People just walking into the nation, like literally just stepping over the line and coming in, they don't have to. The laws don't apply to them.
But we have that. And then we had a conversation yesterday.
James says since the leak stopped, Joe hasn't got the memo that Steve Bannon isn't at the White House anymore.
The head of the Department of Homeland Security talking about the wall.
The wall.
But it's not Donald Trump's wall. that Mexico's going to pay for. It seems like they're going to be doing rehab on Barack Obama's part of the wall. So again, the last week has just seemed to be a lot of sound and fury signifying nothing.
And all reactions to things that President Trump has said impulsively. You can go down the list of stories that we're going to talk about today, whether it's the planned now pullout eventually of troops, American troops from Syria, whether it's the tariffs and the trade war that's come from it, whether it's sending the National Guard to the border. These are things that Donald Trump has got ahead of his own administration, and they've had to scramble in behind him to formulate policy around the statement he's made. President Trump signed a declaration to send National Guard troops to the southern border, as Joe said. It calls for the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security to work with border governors to fight illegal immigration. The move is being activated under Title 32, which gives governors command and control over their troops while the federal government foots the bill. Troops will not make contact with any immigrants. And yesterday, Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen said she hoped deployment would begin, quote, immediately, although she says she's still speaking with the 4 border governors and that a specified plan is not yet in place. Illegal border crossings hit a 46-year low last year, but the administration...
David quite rightly says, "Wait, I thought walls were bad." Yes, but again, you're not. You've got to get yourself in the right mindset here. Remember, it's okay for people to break the law coming into the country. It's not okay for people to break the law to stop them. Walls are bad when Trump wants them. Walls are good when we want them. See, a good bad is just a purely there's no principle here. So we just apply good and bad like a sticker that we slap on somebody's forehead when that particular person is of the right persuasion politically. That's how we decide what good and bad is. So, we don't care about laws. We don't care about rules when people are just marching across the border. We only care about rules when we try to stop them. We mustn't stop them. We can't do anything. We're not allowed to stop people. That's in the rules, apparently, according to Morning Joe.
Insists a surge over the past month and a potential uptick this month is cause for
Logic out the
urgency.
window.
We are seeing more and more advertising, and very unfortunately by the traffickers and smugglers to our south.
Me good, you bad.
Specific to how to get around our system and enter our country and stay. We have documented cases of borrowing children, appearing at the border as a family unit in a fraudulent way. So why today, not yesterday, tomorrow? Today is the day. Today's the day we want to start this process. The threat is real.
President George W. Bush sent 6,000 National Guard troops to the southern border in 2006, while President Obama sent 1,200 in 2010.
The sticker is in the mail with the brown shirt, my brother. James asking where his sticker is. It comes in the mail with the brown shirt, with the armband, and the Goose Step instructional DVD, where you can get your knees clicking to their best capacity.
In both cases, they supported Border Patrol and did not carry out seizures or arrests. And Joe, just to underline how sort of ad hoc this policy has been, we heard yesterday from the National Guard in California, which said, we look forward to some detail about timing, end dates, and plans for this, because it's the first a lot of people who will be implementing this policy have heard of it.
It's funny. We want details. We want details about the National Guard being sent to the southern border. Details on the people who are actually walking over the border? No, we don't want that. They're all angels. Butter wouldn't melt in their mouth. They've never done a thing wrong in their entire life. We don't need to know anything about them. They're just poor people escaping a utopian system in Central America and coming to the racist, oppressive dictatorship of Donald Trump for some reason. One can only assume that they're fascists. The people coming over the border must be right-wing bigot fascists because they want to live in a country that is controlled by white privilege, white power, racism, oppression, a country that hates Muslims, hates blacks. They're just flooding in. They can't wait to be a part of it. I have to surmise, putting my MSNBC level cap on here, that the only people who are racing over the border to get into America are white supremacists wanting to be part of the white supremacist country that is America. Does that sound about right? Apparently a big reveal there. It is a big reveal. Joe thinks so. That's a thinking face. So, yep. All the white supremacists now currently flooding over the border to be part of white supremacists.